citizens take part in elections. We see ourselves as the defender of our European identity and as the first fighters for the reconquest of Europe. What we try to do is make pressure towards the politicians. We believe that the politics in Europe will only change if we force them to do so. We believe that's not enough just to say we are against something. It's not enough just to vote every 4 years. We have to be on the streets. We have to show our protest. It can't be that Europe is dying and Europeans are against it, and they are against it, but they never showed any sign of protest. Look at the left. When the left wants something, they make pressure, they make pressure, they make pressure, and finally they get it. We have to do the same. Just because the politicians are afraid, they're afraid about the people, they don't want to do something controversial, and if the people stand up, they will say, okay, let's do that. But we never stood up. We only say it in rooms, we're against it. The majority of the Europeans was always against mass immigration, but we had never the courage to stand up and say, no, we don't want that. So the left did that, even if they were less than we are actually. So that's what we try to do. We try to do actions on the streets. We also do other things, writing books and holding speeches and that stuff, but we believe that the most important thing the youth has to do today is to do actions. Very famous are two actions the French identitarians did this year and last year. First, they occupied last year the Mosque of Poitiers. They did this with 50 men. They did this to the anniversary of the famous battle of Tours and Poitiers, where Charles Martel, you speak about that right? Okay, where Charles Martel defeated the Arabic invasion. So this was a sign of reconquest, a sign of Europe fighting against foreign invasions. And they occupied exactly at this weekend the Mosque of Poitiers to show, actually, again, there's a threat. Again, there's an invasion, and it's time to stand up. And these actions made the identitarians famous all over Europe, and they were in all medias. And it was, to be honest, the best action we had in the last decades. I can't imagine of anything else which was that brave and really great action. I can just congratulate to the French guys. Another action was this year, when the French identitarians occupied the headquarters of the Socialist Party in Paris. That means the president of France is part of the Socialist Party. They just occupied it. There's a great video on YouTube. It's really impressive. And they occupied it to show we're against that. And they showed that you can do a lot of things. You just must do it. You just must protest. And even if they are not so half legal, you can do them. You can do something and you can protest. Another thing was in Vienna during this winter. Now we also have, to make it clear, the motherland of the identitarians is France. There, the identitarians were founded in 2002, and during the last years, we in Austria, Germany, Italy, and other countries tried to also develop identitarian movements. But the best organization is definitely in France. So, shouldn't write one day a French guy. But in Vienna, the Austrian identitarians did also a great action. This winter, I believe more than 100 asylants, you know, asylants, the word?
Asylum seekers.
Asylum seekers. Okay. Asylum seekers, okay. Occupied a great and famous church in Vienna to show that the state treats them so terrible and the government treats them so terrible, and as a sign of protest. Actually, the left people came to them and told them, hey, occupy the church, you can show your protest. And all the media said, oh, they're so terrible with them, they have to live in a church, and they spent a lot of time, I believe 3 months in this church. And one day, in February 20 identitarians also occupied this church. And they said, we will not go until they go. We also seek for asylum, because we are afraid about the many foreigners in our country. We seek for political protection. Please, we also want to stay in this church. They were forced to leave by a large group of left and police and other people. But 1 week later, the police removed all asylum seekers of this church because they were afraid about other people doing this. So, about new identitarians occupying that. So, it shows if you just act, you can do something. Even if the identitarians are very new in Austria and Germany. We just already started to do some things. So rely on our actions on the streets. Now I want to talk a little bit about the situation about us identitarians in Germany, where I live at the moment. That's a really funny thing, because the German identitarians were founded on Facebook. After the occupation of the Mosque of Poitiers, one guy just made a Facebook page, Identitäre Bewegung Deutschland, Identitarian Movement Germany. Finally, from all over the country, people liked it, people made local pages, people started to do actions on the streets, smaller actions of course, but they did something. And in a very, very short time, the identitarians in Germany had 50 local groups, so nearly every bigger city. At the moment, now we are finding out which of the many, many people who wanted to join a movement are really good. Because it's very easy to say, I join a movement on Facebook, but it's not so easy to join it on the street. So that's what we in Germany are doing at the moment, to transform it from Facebook to the reality in some cities, as in Hanover, for example, if you know that. We have managed that. In other cities we are working on it. But yes, it's also the French identitarians were very surprised that in only some weeks that large identitarian group appeared in Germany. It was really, no one had expected that. So 1 year ago we had nothing, and now we have a movement. So that can go very, very fast if you just do something, if there are just some people who act. Our movement relies on our actions on the street. If we are not on the streets, we don't exist. As Philippe Adam, so if we meet in some halls and talk and talk and talk, we do not exist. If we meet on Facebook and write with each other, we do not exist. You exist when you are on the street and when people can't see you. Philippe Adam, the French identitarian guy, about which I spoke, said in one speech, the streets are our headquarters. So, the actions on the streets are the most important thing. But the slogan I use quite often is, choose your weapons. That means, whenever I find some guy and I talk to him and he tells me, yes, your movement is wonderful, your idea is wonderful, but I can't support it because whatever, there are 1,000 reasons. I was saying, anyone can support us because anyone has a talent. Anyone can do something. I wrote a book, I hold speeches. That's what I focus on at the moment. I try to spread the identitarian idea in Europe, especially in those countries where it doesn't exist at the moment. In Malta, one guy just wrote songs and sings them. Some people make websites, whatever, donate money. But everyone has a talent and everyone can do something. So if one tells me he can't do something, I know he don't want to do something. Because if you really want, you will always find a way. So that's very important. Choose your weapons. Use your talents. We don't say an identitarian has to do this. No, be creative. Do whatever you like to do. What you good can, you will, yes, do where you are good.
You mentioned it in your speech that the most important thing for European people is the action, to act, to do something. And to demonstrate on the streets. But let's say, what will happen if the governments, they say, oh, okay, you demonstrated a lot, we give you the power, what will happen after? Don't you think that it needs a deeper knowledge and understanding for European movements to know how to lead a traditional country or an empire?
We are a metapolitical movement. That means the 68ers, which at least rule in Germany and France and dominate everything, even if most of the people are against them, rule because they control the media, the universities. I know that, I study political science, they control the universities. They control the schools. And we have to ask, maybe you know Gramsci. Gramsci was an Italian communist who wanted to find out in the 20 years why the communistic revolution in Europe failed. And he said, you must, before you can make a revolution, you must change the spirit of the people. You must control the universities, the media. You must look that all important people have your are of your opinion in any way. And we are a metapolitical movement and do exactly that. So what we want to do is we focus also on universities. We fight for the day when a student comes to the university and he's not traditional left, as he was in the 68ers and he is still today. I want to see the day when nearly every student is identitarian, because these students will then go into the media, into politics, and will change something. We do not believe, or not only believe in political parties, which was something you mean. In Eastern Europe you have a different situation, you know. But for example, in Austria, where I'm originally from, we have in Austria a very, very strong right-wing party, the Freedom Party. Since the 98, this party has between 20 and 30% in every election. And nothing has changed. They are strong, they win every election, they win and win and win. They were part of the government, they were the strongest party in the government. Nothing has changed. The media is still left, universities are still left, and the demographic situation is still terrible. We are still dying out, and the mass immigration continues. So I don't believe in parties alone. I believe in metapolitics. I will end that very short so you can ask other questions. I believe a party can only say something what the people already think and believe, because it needs elections. And you have to change the Zeitgeist, we say in German, the spirit of the people first, before I can win power of a party. We always focused on parties, and that was, I believe, that was a mistake. So we see ourselves also as a metapolitical movement. So we try to be in many social areas. We try to be in universities and to do what the 68ers did in the year 68. We just want to copy them, but from the other side.